from the crypt.
Hello, boys and ghouls. Welcome to episode 69 of Dads in the Crypt. Nice. My name is Jason. I'm your host tonight, and I'm joined by Jody.
Hello.
And Mondo.
Hello.
And no guest, because we're kind of rebooting a little bit for the moment to do our Cabinet of Curiosities series. So we're kind of going back to basics, bringing the boys back. How we doing? What you drinking?
What you got, Jody?
All right,
Hey.
I've got, it's December, and it's really freaking cold here in Tennessee. So I've got my St. Bernardus Christmas Ale. Very, very tasty. Very boozy tasting, too. So let's see how this episode goes tonight.
What is it exactly?
It's got some spices and stuff in there, but it's a dark ale. But yeah,
Yum.
very much like a strong ale or like a triple or something like that.
What's the ABV on that sucker?
10%.
Ooh.
Which is not that big, but this bottle is really big.
Yeah.
No, 10%'s big, man. 10%'s big.
Yeah.
I never heard anybody say 10 was small. So
yeah, I mean it technically is, but I do like the bigger, boozier beers. So a lot of times 10% doesn't seem quite such a big thing.
Yeah. So a great story about St. Bernardus is there's a Trappist brewery called West Veteran, and they basically you can only get the beer there and buy the beer there and drink the beer there. So they came out with they eventually started releasing the beer to the wild, but they basically gave the recipe to St. Bernardus, and St. Bernardus ABT12 is pretty much the same beer. Funny story though, a few years back, probably 10 years ago, they needed to do repairs in the monastery, so they decided to actually sell their beer out of the monastery for the first time ever into the wild. And I remember we got it here at Total Wine, and a buddy of mine, he and I were doing a beer review podcast on a local beer blog. We got a 6-pack of it for, I think it was like $120.
Mm-hmm.
Ridiculous. And it was good, but it was great. So naturally we decided to make shandies and beer mimosas out of it. Which you can actually find it on our old website called Hooked on Hops. It's probably still up there. But just cool. But then they kind of asked after that St. Bernardus to stop brewing the beer. And Bernardus is like, no. It's our best-selling beer. We're not going to stop brewing it. No, sorry about your bad luck. But now you can actually find Westy 12 in the wild some places, but it's still very, very sought after.
I'm just thinking about a $20 a bottle beer making shandies.
When we did this website, our goal is to kind of take the piss out of the whole beer scene.
Oh yeah. No,
people take it too seriously. We also there's a beer called Black Tuesday by the brewery based out in California, and very sought after, right up your alley, Joe. Like 18% alcohol, gorgeous, delicious beer. So we got our hands on a bottle of that back when you really couldn't. So we all tasted it, and then we decided to pour it inside of a coffee press with a taco and call it Taco Tuesday.
Jeez.
What?
You can find the video of that too on hookedonhops.com, and it's us. So I made sure when we did the pressing that I had Flight of the Valkyries playing in the background, and we actually, I kid you not. So if you've ever heard of Beer Advocate, the website, we got someone posted that on their message board, and we got death threats over it.
Yeah.
They had to shut the thread down on Beer Advocate because people were like just saying very, very unkind things about our Mexican heritage.
Right.
And I got emails on my Hooked on Hops account, saying people were gonna come kill us and stuff like that, which I didn't believe, obviously. Over beer.
Yeah, beer is something to enjoy. Like, just enjoy it or don't enjoy it or whatever. Like, don't take it that seriously. Damn.
Yeah.
There's a reason why I love, I talk about beer on here, and I love good beer. I've been a craft beer geek for a long time. Yeah. But the reason I use the term geek and not snob is because I'd rather drink shitty beer with good people than drink the best beer in the world with shitty people. Like that's a difference, I think, because if I go to your house, Jody, and all you have is Miller Lite, fucking A, man, we're drinking Miller Lite tonight.
The number of times I've gone over to my parents and my brother showed up with like a 6-pack of Banquet. I'm like, I'll sit there and drink some Banquet. Yeah. Why not?
Because it's about the people you're with, the experience,
we're having
not
a good time.
Right. Alcohol. Let's not be wine snobs now.
Cool. All right, we're going to roll into announcements. This is the last episode before our Dead Easy script read. And we have some announcements about the cast. Not completed yet. We still have the 2 leads that we're working on, but the names we have floating for that are very exciting. Who we do have is Brett Collins, who played Thomas Wayne in the Joker movie. Leslie Zemeckis, who, yes, is married to Bob Zemeckis. Jake Busey, because freaking Jake Busey.
Jake Busey.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And Chelsea Rebecca from the Dead Meat channel, who I met this weekend at Seasons Screaming, and had a blast at that convention. Really fun time. So
Very,
again, mark
very
your
looking forward to
calendars. We will be there's still a few more details that'll be coming out, so just keep in touch with our socials and everything will be there. All right, well, let's talk about tonight's episode. We are talking Cabinet of Curiosities, episode 1, called Lot 36. Jody, give us your plot synopsis.
Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and say this is not going to be my typical Tales from the Crypt plot synopsis, because Tales from the Crypt came out like in the early 90s. You've had 30 years to catch up. This just came out a few weeks ago. I'm not going to spoil everything. We'll probably spoil stuff when we talk about it later, but at least for the synopsis, I'll just get you started. I do have to say, at the very beginning, I love the Guillermo del Toro intro, just him kind of coming out and like, we're going to talk about the secrets and curiosities, and he's got that accent, and I'm like, he just seems like a giant teddy bear of a man, and
Yeah.
I'm really glad that he does that intro.
Did you guys see the SNL video that came out last night about the big boys?
Big guys, yeah, I did.
I'm like, I felt so seen. All I wanted was them to come out with like CPAPs and like marching with CPAPs, dancing with CPAPs. Also, I did love the intro credit sequence. I'm like, is this just what Guillermo del Toro's house looks like?
Yeah.
So did you ever go? They did a in Los Angeles at the Museum of Pop Culture, or maybe it's Modern Art. They had an exhibit about 5-6 years ago that was basically meant to look like the inside of Del Toro's house. And it was one of the coolest museum experience I've ever had in my life. I
saw pictures of it. It looks like the dusty old library, that you see in movies, but with all this cool horror memorabilia and stuff in there. It's amazing looking.
Dude, it was so awesome just walking by like a life-size statue of Ray Harryhausen in his chair, and the skeletons are pouring him coffee. And then, of course, they had the satyr from Pan's Labyrinth, but it's all kinds of random relics he had that he, sent there. If they ever do a pop-up like that again, it's a must go. One of the coolest experiences I've ever seen.
Nice.
Or had.
So that's our intro, and just everything we're saying here. He's the producer of this, not the actual director, but Guillermo del Toro is just a really cool guy.
Well,
just in general.
I think he wrote he wrote some version of a lot of these stories.
Right. But anyway, on to our actual story here. It's set in the 90s, and you can tell that because it opens up with George Bush talking about the Iraq War. And there is a man in an apartment, and he's cutting up some kind of meat, some critter of some sort. There is a head on it. I couldn't quite tell what it was. It's kind of a vicious looking head, but also once the skin is off, a lot of things look weird. While he's chopping it up, he dies of a heart attack. And we see that he has a key to a storage unit, Lot 36, and that's the title of this. And that's a long-term storage rental unit. And since he has died, his unit is being auctioned off, kind of that blind buy thing. They open it up, show that there's stuff in it, quick peek, and then close it. And then they auction it to the highest bidder. This dude named Nick buys the storage unit. Nick is kind of a piece of crap. He's a obvious, would you go full out white supremacist? I think he's probably at least leaning that way.
They definitely play him off as like that. He's an ex-soldier, obviously.
Right.
And
he doesn't like immigrants. He doesn't really like black people.
He's very xenophobic.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. He's definitely got a lot of trauma there, and definitely expresses he's not dealing with his trauma in healthy ways. Put it that way.
Yeah, so Nick, he has a lot of problems. He's not a very pleasant dude throughout this entire episode, but he buys it for $400. And then you find out that the man who had owned it before came to the unit every single day for decades. He's owned it since like the 40s. And he's come in with a bag, does this weird little like hopping ritual before he goes into the building or into the unit, goes in, stays there for like an hour and a half, and then leaves. The bag is empty. and he's done this for decades. And so obviously something a little strange is going on with the stuff in this unit. There's also a Hispanic lady who comes to pay her bill at the storage unit and finds out that they had sent a bill to the wrong place. They'd evicted her from it. And so her unit had been sold off also to Nick. This is kind of Nick's whole gig. He buys these things, sells stuff, and then makes money off of it. She goes to Nick and asks him if he can let her have access because there's lots of sentimental things in there. And he blows her off, tells her she could have it for $1,000. So she's mad at him and stays mad at him through the whole time. Throughout the whole episode, you kind of see her in various places looking at him from a distance. And so he goes in the unit, looks at photos. In the photos, there's some Nazi stuff, implying that maybe he was a Nazi, the guy who owned it before. There's a table.
It wasn't like anti-Nazi stuff either. It was like glorifying.
No. Yeah, it was
Nazi
like pictures of like.
Well, it was in his family album. It was pictures of Nazis.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, when swastikas appear in your family album, there's not really a good way for that to go.
Well, hold on. So my grandfather, who was German, he fought for the Allies in World War II, but he definitely did have photo albums of the war, of pictures he took as they were liberating German cities.
Well, yeah.
That's a different thing.
That's the only time it's okay.
That's the way that it's okay if you're taking pictures of liberation.
Yeah, these are pictures of like
marches.
Embracing the marches, embracing the shitbaggery.
And so he also sees this table with a pentagram on top and is kind of intrigued by it. And so he goes to this collector. We find out that the table is a seance table. There's these creepy books inside that are worth a lot of money. But if there's 3 creepy books, and if he had the 4th one, it would be worth a ton of money. Like the 3 books by themselves are $10,000. The 4 books are $300,000. And so he brings this collector with him, and I won't tell what happens yet at this point, but stuff ensues as they begin to investigate this strange storage unit.
All right, Mondo, what did you think of this episode?
So if this is how the whole series is going to go, I'm pretty excited for it because I thought that this episode was fantastic. A couple real cool things about it is one, the name Lot 36, which I think is kind of a shout out to Lucio Fulci, because in the Beyond, all the bad stuff starts happening in room 36. Oh, nice. 36 being 3 6s. So it's
3 6.
So yeah. I thought, I saw 3 6, like, okay, 666. I didn't realize that was a Fulci reference.
Oh, I don't know if that was intentional, but I immediately picked up on that because that's my favorite movie. But I thought a lot of great stuff in this, and the first thing I want to shout out is I know the idea behind this series is really to highlight some and maybe some lesser known filmmakers or directors, and the direction in this and the cinematography in this was just fantastic. Like the way whenever they get those shots down those long hallways, and they did this a couple times where you expect something to happen in the background but it never comes, and I think that's such a really, really great red herring that they pull off. The intro scene with the guy chopping up meat was like literally disgusting. It was we just sat down to eat breakfast, and it was one of the few times like I've eaten during Cannibal Holocaust, but I was about to eat during this, and I was like, should I maybe these beautiful eggs don't look as good as they did 5 minutes ago.
Do you think there's like a different experience when like we watch things like Cannibal Holocaust that were filmed so long ago, like the film grain is there that makes it like a little dissociative, where we watch something modern, it's an HD, and it just feels that much more visceral?
I don't know. I think sometimes it is do a really good job at making things look utterly disgusting. And sometimes when I 100% knew it's fake, it just looked really freaking disgusting.
Well, and it looked close enough to like real stuff. Like if I hadn't seen this weird little head, I would have thought he was chopping chicken or something like that. But like the idea of this like disgusting head.
Well, and then he keels over dead and like he knocks the meat on top of him. That was the gross part for me. That's like, oh.
Yeah, and I still stand by it. I've said this many times on the podcast with Drag Me to Hell being one of the most disgusting movies ever made. And it's PG-13 glory or PG-13 glory. So yeah, this episode, I thought a lot of great ideas they had in this, and I'm gonna probably just warn people right now. We're definitely gonna go into spoilery territory as we talk more and more about this. So if you want to watch the episode, I would say pause it and then watch the episode, come back and listen to us. But they do a lot of cool things. Again, like the main character Nick, just he's not a likable guy. He definitely, he's down on his luck, and you hate to see people like that. But he definitely, like when the Mexican woman comes and she, at one point she goes, "I just want my photos," and he goes, "No, sorry, you can. It's all mine. I bought it." And I'm like, dude, like you're not gonna sell photos, right? You're not gonna make money off those. Like let the person have her photos back. She's not asking for much. And that scene too, where she's also trying to pay her bill, was kind of heartbreaking because she was telling the manager, like, man, I've had a storage unit here for 20 years. And originally I thought the storage unit where the shit goes down was her storage unit, but I guess it wasn't, right?
No, that was the other one.
No, okay.
That's
Okay.
36.
And also the dude's little bunny hop dancing, fucking terrifying. That was so unnerving, the way he's moving in the security cameras.
But that never came back, right? They never explained that.
Well, no, because he died. But I
think it was probably something like before he approached. Because I mean, obviously, we haven't said it yet, but there's something weird, demonic going on inside this unit, and I'm guessing that was some kind of ritual before entering into the presence of whatever this thing is.
So to me, I was thinking he was just being OCD.
No, I think it was something because, obviously we find out really quickly that this guy was obviously a demonologist or had something in there because they find out that fourth book is somewhere is hidden in the back of that storage unit. Where they find that false wall, and then you see all the Bible pages hung over there. And really, if I have one critique of this episode, my only critique is some of the CGI at the end. When you see the monster with the tentacles and everything, which I'm a big fan of Lovecraft, so I love me some tentacles. But I do think that was a little bit not like that, Jason. That's not my. I mean, nothing against people out there that like to see their tentacles in whatever manner they want to see them in. But I more so want to see them killing somebody than. I think I put them in their orifices, I guess, if it's relating to death. But anyhow, I digress. That's what you were getting.
Really digressed.
Don't shake your head at me. And then a couple of things they did that was really cool too. So towards the end, obviously, they find this demon inside of a pentagram, and the demonologist tells him, "Do not step across that line or step into the circle." First thing he does, steps right into the circle. Like he could have easily walked around it. And at first, it kind of bugged me. So I was like, he could have just walked around the pentagram. But then no, I realized that was the purpose of it. He just didn't care. All he can see is $300,000 in his future, and doesn't give a shit who it hurts. And then the very end, the very, very last scene, which I'll let you guys talk about, I thought was just beautiful. Because it was karma coming right back to kick this guy in the ass. But if we're going to get more episodes like this in this series, I don't see how we can go wrong, because this one was a banger.
All right, Jody, go ahead.
Yeah, I really like this. With the weird occult angle and kind of the unearthing all this stuff and finding out more and more, because this is 45 minutes, it just gives you kind of a taste. Like it doesn't go into full detail. It doesn't stretch it out too long. Like there's no wasted time, I feel like, in this whole 45 minutes. And you find out just enough to know that there is something very disturbing going on. There's been some kind of demonic thing happening in this storage unit. The guy sacrificed his own sister. And I didn't even get all of what happened, Like I feel like maybe I missed a little bit of the story, but I didn't need all of it. Like I got enough to know the guy was up to some bad stuff. And
like, was he butchering the animals and bringing them to the demon?
That's what I'm thinking. It's whatever this thing he killed and was chopping up. He was bringing something to feed that demon every day.
Yeah, and they kind of alluded to that towards the end when they found the demon was basically emaciated, right? Because it hadn't been getting fed, so that's why it was dying.
Okay.
Yeah, because it had possessed his sister's body because he gave his sister to it. So just like all this, like just enough lore to make it interesting. The characters I thought were really good. Nick was a very unpleasant person, but he did the job really well of being the protagonist for this story. I liked all the little side characters too, like the guy who owned the storage units and had to put up with Nick. They had kind of an interesting dynamic. I like the lady who showed up trying to get her stuff, and the weird collectors. Like I like when you're doing occult stuff in a movie and the collectors show up and they're all just a little bit strange, and the man has a German accent, and you could tell like he's into this kind of thing. Like the idea of finding a demon with no face, yeah, that's like the best day ever for him.
But I do like how he was still kind of the cautious person at the end. Like, no, we can't go in this room. We can't
Right.
disturb him. And I did like how they did that because you do kind of. I was kind of thinking the direction they were going to go is him wanting to get his hands on this demon, but no,
Right.
he more so. I mean, let's be honest. What do you guys call me tomorrow? I was like, hey, you want to see a demon? I'm like, I know we probably shouldn't, but I'm probably gonna be like, yeah, I kind of do though. But I just don't want to go in the room all the way. I felt like he kind of had that wonder about him, where
Yeah.
but he was never like that. That character that you just I expected him 100% to end up being the antagonist or be the guy that forces the demon
Yeah.
to come to life or whatever.
No, it seemed more like he was somebody who was curious about all this stuff and played around with it, and then was suddenly like confronted by an actual thing, and he's like, "Okay, let's just take a step back here." And then Nick, I get the thing about Nick wanting the money, but I think once I walked into the room with a body strapped to the ground and a pentagram there, I'd probably at least pause for just a second before getting my money.
Well, this is where I kind of think his background's important because he's obviously because he even mentioned. I mean, and one thing to keep in mind too, like this is set like in the early '90s, I think, or
Mhm.
mid
Yeah,
'90s.
it's in 91 on the broadcast.
Okay, because the intro when the man first dies, we're watching the opening moments of Desert Storm, which I don't know
Right.
about you guys. I vividly remember watching that on TV
Oh yeah,
as a kid.
100%.
Like I saw that, I was like, oh, flashback to in my grandparents' kitchen watching that. But I think that's one thing that I think that's one reason why I think it does fit with this character to running after the money because the shit he's seen in the war and he's down on his luck. I think anything could have been in there and it wouldn't have faced him at that point. He was more so just he wanted to get out of his debt because he obviously owed some people a lot of money and
Right.
he wanted the better life for himself. So I think he definitely would have done that.
Yeah, I didn't mention it in my synopsis, but the guys who owe him money came and bashed in his truck window with a hammer, then smacked him in the forehead with that same hammer, and then busted up his windshield. So yeah, this is not the kind of person you want to owe money to. So I can understand wanting to get out of that very quickly.
That was one of those new IRS agents in training.
Uh-huh. All right, I'm hopping. I like this episode a lot. I thought the ending was a little rushed, and I was expecting Eddie to show up for him to have some consequence. I kind of wanted like another beat or two before the wrap up. Maybe I was expecting the woman that whose lot he took to like maybe like save him at the last second to try to teach him a lesson, but then give him another fuck you or something. I don't know. There was the ending didn't quite stick for me, but everything else I really loved. I love the production design. I don't know if it's Guillermo del Toro's influence, but there's so many details. Like they could have just had a table with a pentagram on it and call it "Stay on Sale," but no, there were like runes like etched into the table. It just looks so beautiful. And there's
in that storage unit, even like the chairs looked really cool. Like, everything had a theme to it that like an occult kind of just off the beaten path theme, which was really neat.
Right. And then it was kind of annoying how they had the plot device of the lights that you had to turn and they would go off after like 1 minute. That got a little like I like the concept because that's really freaky to me to be like stuck somewhere like underground with the lights shutting off. But they didn't like time it very well.
Dude, have you ever been
I couldn't quite figure out what was going on at first because they kept running over to the wall when the lights were off. And then I think about halfway through the episode, they finally show the little dial. And I remember like little dials like that, like in my grandma's house, they had like a little heater above the toilet, like in the bathroom, and you turned the dial and it would warm up the room for a brief period of time. I think I did notice that when it was cutting off very quickly, I don't think he was turning it all the way. Like he was just turning it enough to get the lights back on and not like actually cranking it all the way through.
Yeah. And if you've ever been in like old storage units like that, they still have those here in Vegas, I guarantee you, where you shut some lights because people leave the lights on all the time. So I actually thought that added a little bit of tension because when the lights went off, it made sense. It wasn't like a demonic entity, obviously. It was just adds a little bit of creepiness.
The concept of it works really well for me, but I just felt like it just happened too quickly. Like it felt like you just turned it and then like literally 30 seconds later, you'd have to go turn it again. Maybe he wasn't doing it all the way, or maybe it was they talked about how old the storage units were. Maybe that was a part of it. It was just again my logic brain that got caught up in that. But again, this is a really, really good start. Again, I don't feel like the ending quite hit as well with me. I wanted like just a little bit more plot beat. But again, you talked about the direction and the cinematography was great. Well, that's because this is directed by Guillermo Navarro. He was the director of photography for From Dusk Till Dawn, Jackie Brown, Spawn, Spy Kids, Devil's Backbone, the Night Museum series, Hellboy, and Pacific Rim, among many, many others. And he also directed episodes of the TV show Hannibal.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah, he hats off to him because he did a great job. Um, just talking about the cast a little bit, Nick is played by Tim Blake Nelson, who's low key a really, really good actor. He doesn't do many big showy parts. He was recently in Nightmare Alley in the Watchmen series. It's like probably my favorite character in the Watchmen series. And then he was in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? So
One of the soggy bottom boys.
yeah. So he's had a really like low key fun career.
Yeah, I couldn't place him until I saw where you'd written down "Oh Brother, Where Art There," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I know that guy now."
The woman Amelia, who's lot they take over. I'm not probably gonna say this right. Elpidia Carrillo. She was Anna from the Predator movies, or the first Predator movie.
Oh, nice.
And then Eddie's played by Demetrius Grosse. He's in Fear of the Walking Dead, Westworld, Justified. Again, it's nice having modern references to talk about. And then, I skipped over the other guy. Roland, like the cultist, is played by Sebastian Roche. He was in Man in the High Castle. Is also in Last of the Mohicans. And then this other woman that there was at the place where they took the items. The character's name is Agatha. She's played by Martha Burns. The only thing I really recognized was the Stephen King miniseries Storm of the Century. But again, really good cast, really well made episode. I just kind of wanted a little bit more. Again, I didn't quite understand what the point of putting it in the 1991 setting. I was expecting that to kind of like have some sort of consequence.
The only thing I could figure from that is we're dealing with somebody who grew up in Germany during Nazi Germany,
Yeah,
and he'd be real freaking old now
yeah,
if it was
okay.
set in modern times. Just the age.
Age-wise, okay, I can buy that.
Age-wise, I always think it's a really good technique to basically immediately eliminate the need for cell phones or anything like that.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
I think it does add at the ending where he's trapped in there, and that's why he has no way. He can't call anybody to come get him out. He can't call the police. He's just trapped now in this warehouse with this fucking demon.
yeah, okay. Those reasons make more sense now. I guess I was looking for a thematic reason, and I guess I was looking for the themes of the episode that they were hinting at to kind of come together, and then I guess her giving him the finger, running away, basically. I guess I was expecting a little bit deeper, but not everything has to save race relations in this country. So, for what it was very, very good.
Yeah, no, I think my favorite part about this is just the atmosphere of the whole thing. It was oozing with atmosphere. Everything from, like you were saying, Mondo, the chairs and the set decorations and everything. Just the storage unit looked damp and wet and moldy. Like you could almost smell the place just looking at it. And then you go to the occultist place, and it's got all of these creepy kind of things around and antique. Like this had a lot of weight to the atmosphere, and I really enjoyed that part of it.
Well, then there was like the moment where they opened the fake wall to get to the back area, and they're both hit with like a smell. Like there's a part of your brain that kind of knew what that might smell like, or what each person's idea of like a wall of smell.
If I'm not mistaken, too, I think Nick says something about, "Oh God, that smells terrible," and the demonologist kind of likes it. He kind of says something to the effect of like, "Oh, that means we're close" or something.
Yeah, it's something like a cat marking its territory.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great line. And man, the Bible page is pasted to the wall too,
crucifixes,
which is always an interesting thing in these kind of occult films, and also draw a parallel to you can go back and read all about the Nazis in the occult. And about how Hitler was really into the occult. It was actually had teams going out to try to dig up artifacts. They're looking for like the Holy Grail and the Shroud of Turin and everything. They thought those artifacts would bring them power. But it's also funny when you see like these. It's a common trope in these things with a demonologist or whoever. I'm referring to the old man. I'm referring kind of both of them. I guess the old man, I would say, even though he was into who they called a truly evil person, was still afraid enough of what he was unleashing to try to hold it there with the Bible verses and everything.
Yeah.
Mm.
Which I always think is funny. Is like you want to unleash this evil in the world, but you're still kind of afraid of it.
Playing
Yeah.
with power you don't know what to do
Yeah.
with. I like it.
All right. Well, we don't have a comic to compare it to. Do we have any final thoughts before we go to our rating?
So I always, when you mentioned Jason about how like you wanted a little bit more out of the ending, I always wonder though like where they could go next. And then I was just thinking about this. I just want to see this tentacle creature just with a man's body and all these tentacles come out, just walking in the street absorbing people for like
Yeah.
hours.
No, I
And
thought
like
I mean, yeah, the CG wasn't the best, but I still thought it was very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, with a 45-minute episode, probably not a giant budget. We're going to see some corners get cut here and there.
Yeah.
As we would with Tales from the Crypt, to be honest with you. So
Yeah.
I'm totally fine with it.
Yeah, no, I think it was an acceptable TV budget.
Yeah. I think really some of that bad CGI only bothers me when you have these like giant motion pictures that and then you'll see some terrible CGI. And it's like, come on, guys, you guys spent $100 million on this film and you couldn't get the fucking fire right.
Right.
All right. So let's move to our rating. Jody, 0 to 5.
Okay, so I don't know how to compare this to anything else that's coming, so I'm just gonna go based
knee-jerk.
on
Yeah.
how I felt about it. I'm gonna give this one a 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed it.
Armando.
I'm going a little bit higher. I'm going 4.5 out of 5. It wasn't a perfect episode, but I do again like I love a good demon story. I love all like, that whole the mythos behind when they start getting the mythos behind that kind of stuff. It just it tickles my fancy. And you give me some tentacles, some Cthulhu tentacles at the end, and I'm a happy guy. So 4.5.
I'm gonna go slightly low. I'm going to 3.5. Very, very promising. Just didn't quite stick it with me. But I'm really excited to see where we go.
Yeah,
Oh,
after watching this first episode, it took everything in me not to just go ahead and start binging this series. Because
yeah. I was thinking that too.
I said the same thing. Like I just want to start watching all the episodes. I'm like, no, because I'm gonna have to watch them again. I want when we talk about it to be a fresh watch.
right, yeah, I had to force myself not to.
Yeah, because it's I'm excited for the next
Very excited.
7
for
more.
where we're going, and
Yeah.
we've got one by Panos Cosmatos
Yes.
coming up. The guy who directed Mandy. Like,
Mhm.
come on, that's gonna be nuts.
That's gonna be
We know it.
crazy.
Yeah.
And the
I
fact
was
some-
wondering if he has like a new movie or anything coming out soon. So this is cool.
and what they're doing, the Pikmin's model, which is a Lovecraft story,
Yes.
because Del Toro feels about Lovecraft, and then what they have, what's the next one? Fucking Dreams in the Witch House,
Yeah.
which is also one that they did for Masters of Horror. I think
Mhm.
it was Mick Garris.
Yeah, I think so.
Mhm.
Or
So
or Stuart Gordon, maybe.
Stuart Gordon. I'm sorry, you're right.
Oh.
But so I'm looking forward to what we have coming up.
Funny note, I sat next to Mick Garris's wife this weekend.
Oh, that's cool.
Nice.
Completely unknowing, and turns out she played the woman in the bathtub in the Shining miniseries.
Oh, really?
So I went to a panel hosted by Mick Garris and Mike Flanagan about their Shining movies. So he mentioned that, and afterwards I turned to her and says, "You know, you scared the crap out of me when I was a kid, right?" She's like, "Good."
Did you I saw, did you also get to watch the Mean One?
Yes. Well, yeah. We'll talk about. Let's say that for horror news.
Okay.
But all right. Well, no Al anecdotes. He's taking a little break. But Mondo, give us your song of the day.
I mean, if Al wants to just talk about this episode, he can jump in. Song of the day. So, in light of real world events that have happened recently, what happened in Colorado, I like to go a little bit. So there's in my beloved genre of black metal, there's a lot of shitbags in the genre. The genre does bring out the worst in some people. There's a lot of great people in the genre too, but there are a lot of bands. I'm looking at you, Burzum. I'm looking at you, fucking. I can name all kinds of bands that their morals do not really align with most common decent people's morals. And so I kind of want to go pivot a little bit and go with some of the lesser known bands in the genre. So today I have a band called Wolven Daughter, which is a one-person black metal project based out of Kentucky, and it is a female who's a trans female, and goes by trans female too. So I feel comfortable saying that. You can find her on Instagram, Twitter at Wolven Daughter, but the W is not W, it's 2 V's. So VV Olven daughter.
Wolven.
And yes. So I do like in a genre that's filled with a lot of fucking Nazi douchebags. And I mean, there's a whole subgenre of black metal called neo-socialist black metal. Doesn't take a genius to figure out what that's about. And in a genre filled with people who are very intolerant of other people's beliefs, I kind of want to highlight people on the other side of the spectrum. So this is gonna be the first one. And she's released like I think 3 EPs in the last year. And the first one, I'm not gonna lie, the first one she did, I didn't like. I was like, yeah, this is just some very generic black metal, but she had some good ideas in there. Then she released her newest one, I think, in June, and it's self-titled and much better. She's got some really good song structure going on with still the traditional kind of really grim production, but you can still hear all the instruments. But above all else, she has a really great knack for songwriting, and that's kind of like what I look for in my music nowadays. Like anyone can fucking record something on the Casio recorder and make it sound grim and evil, but I need you to give me something and give me some good songwriting. So the song I want to choose is off her latest EP, self-titled, so Woven Daughter, and the song I'm going to pick is going to be called The Horror of an I can't speak today. The Horror of an Unknowable God. So check her out on Bandcamp. It's wolvendaughter.bandcamp.com. Not on any of the streaming services. Support artists, people. Spend a few bucks. I think you can buy the digital album for like, it's name your price. So throw a few bucks to her on Bandcamp. Check it out and check out I guess one of the minority groups inside the black metal scene. And it's really cool seeing more and more people are saying like, fuck the Nazis, fuck all these pieces of shit in the scene. We're gonna carve our own path out, and we're gonna make this genre our own. So shout out to Woven Daughter for being pretty fucking brave in a sea of very homogenized, let's be honest, like fucking the metal scene is like what 99% white males. 99.5% if you have a bald head, gentlemen. But so it's cool anytime you see someone really trying to really stepping out of that mold and making some great music.
Is she on social media?
Yes. Twitter.
Send me the link.
Again,
we'll tag her.
Woven Daughter again with 2 V's instead of a W.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna screw that up. So send me the link.
Yeah, we'll make sure we link it in our episode description.
Yeah, and send me the Bandcamp. I want to check that out.
Cool, definitely we'll do.
All right, thank you, Mondo. Jody, give us some horror news.
All right. So, are we all Mike Flanagan fans here? I know I'm a huge Mike Flanagan fan.
I was like
not,
5
why are
feet
we
from
even talking.
Yeah. So, Mike Flanagan and Trevor Macy's company, Intrepid Pictures, their contract with Netflix has expired, but they have a brand new deal with Amazon Prime and get to make a lot more of the things that they're known for, but also more movies. He said he wants to get more theatrical releases because he's been making all these Netflix movies, hasn't had a lot in theaters recently. And our friend Dr. Natalie had a discussion with Mike Flanagan the other day at the same convention you were at, I think, right?
Season Screamings. Yeah, it was today.
So they had a discussion, and he said one of the benefits to working with Amazon is they will do physical releases. Something Netflix just does not do. But I would love to have like Haunting of Hill House and Midnight Mass on a very nice Blu-ray. So I'm very excited about the idea that he can actually do more of that with Amazon.
That's awesome. And sad to speak too, we just found out that Netflix will not be doing another season of Midnight Club.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's because his contract was running out at the same time, and I don't know. But either way, I love Mike Flanagan. He makes great stuff. If you have a TikTok and you don't follow Mike Flanagan, you are missing out because he's one of the funniest guys on TikTok, which is really surprising, but like he is hilarious.
Ooh, I'm missing out. I'll have to look him up on there.
Yeah, he's really funny. He talks. There was one of them where he talked about it was like fan questions, and it was, what do you like more, monologues or Kate Siegel? And he said, well, Kate Siegel. And then he sits there for a second, like his face straining, and she's like, you're going to do it, aren't you? And then he goes into a monologue about how I can remember the first time I ever met her. It's like a summer day. It's just fantastic. Great stuff.
I love it.
He also has another one about making us cry and how he loves to drink our tears, and that's why he does it.
Mike Flanagan, too, has he did Oculus.
Yeah, I love Oculus.
No, me too. And it's kind of funny because that's when WWE was first starting to get into films, and they actually were the producers on that. So everyone kind of wrote that movie off before it ever came out, before it ever was even thinking, oh, it's going to be just a cash in, it's going to be a piece of crap. And then he went in there and just made this awesome movie.
Yeah,
I think kind of blew everybody away.
That may be one of my favorite Flanagan projects.
Really,
outside of the shows, Midnight Mass is my favorite thing he's ever made. But
I think he did Hush, which is really
he did Hush, yeah.
Hush,
great twist on the slasher.
Man, yeah, what a smart twist in that. And what's funny is someone's just saying if you go back and watch Hush, there are Easter eggs as like the book she's writing that allude to other characters and other shows he eventually did, which is so cool.
The Flamverse.
I went to his panel again about Dr. Sleep, and it was really cool. And they had Henry Thomas, who played the Jack Torrance cameo. It was really cool to hear them talk about how they approached that, with a very, very, very carefully. And basically, Henry Thomas was there for a month. He'll only need to be there for one day of shooting, but they had him there for like a month before that, trying on different wigs, trying different approaches and everything. So it was really cool to hear about, all the dedication this actor put in for one day's work for like a couple minute scene, but of a iconic character.
That's awesome.
That's another one of his great TikToks too. Someone asked him why he works with all the same actors all the time. He says he has very bad vision and he keeps getting tricked. He thought he was casting Tom Cruise, and it was just all these people he works with all the time in disguise. So yeah, he's definitely worth a follow. All right, more news. The Cocaine Bear trailer has been released, and it's just as crazy and bloody as you would think. For those of y'all who don't live in a place where y'all is something said on a common basis, Cocaine Bear is a real story about in Kentucky. A drug dealer was flying a plane and had to drop some of his stash, and a bear out in the woods ate 80 pounds of cocaine. Now, in reality, that killed the bear. That's what happens when you eat 80 pounds of cocaine. But in the movie, it drives the bear insane and bloody violence ensues.
Watching the trailer and realizing the bear is going to have an internal monologue during this movie immediately makes me a fan. Like I'm so excited for this.
Yeah, that's definitely like, stakes on the plane and the kind of, just over the top silliness. And I'm here for that.
And everybody knows that your anaconda don't want none unless you've got buns, son.
And Ice Cube did not have a good day.
Did you ever see that guy who figured out like what day Ice Cube's good day was?
Yeah, I saw that.
If you haven't seen it, look up Ice Cube's good day. He literally found the perfect, like, this is the only day like in history that the weather was perfect.
Lakers beat the Supersonics.
Yeah.
There's only a handful of days that all this stuff came together.
Man, how many of you remember hearing that song when you're way too young to hear that song? And you're like, yeah, my dick runs deep. Like, I know I'm 9, but
I didn't have to use Alaska for anything.
Oh, well done, sir. Some geography humor there.
I saw a T-shirt that said that.
I thought I went total lowbrow, and then Jason came over that highbrow comedy.
Nice.
So wrap that shit up.
Got all sides here. So I haven't listened to last week's episode yet because I'm still catching up. Jason, did you mention the new public domain movie coming out, Bambi: The Reckoning?
No.
Okay, so there is another movie being made by taking a beloved children's property and making a horror movie out of it. This from the same people who are making Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, and whatever that Peter Pan one is. They're making Bambi: The Reckoning, where Bambi becomes a vicious killing machine. And the thing that really makes me interested in this is they said they found inspiration in the design used in Netflix's The Ritual.
Oh, God.
What? I have no idea how this is coming together. But that monster in The Ritual was one of the coolest monsters I've seen in a long time. I don't know how it relates to Bambi, but I'm in. I'm in to find out.
Real fast. Has anybody seen, is the Winnie the Pooh movie actually out?
I don't think so yet. I think it comes out early next year.
What I will say is the trailer made it look way better than it had any. I mean, they're actually trying, and it actually looks pretty good.
Well, and I think the same team is making Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. They're making the Peter Pan one and this new Bambi one. They've found their niche finding public domain things and making twisted versions of them. And again, more power to them. If they can do them good,
Yeah,
good.
I'm
I have to find-
waiting. I'm waiting to see if it's any good. This concept sounds like it'd be better like as an anthology, like a half hour, 40 minute of like each one of these. I don't know if I'd want to sit through a whole movie of that.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
we'll
I've
see.
sat
Third
through a
one?
lot of slashers with worse concepts. Than
Yeah,
Winnie
like
the Pooh.
if they're an hour and 15, hour, maybe up to an hour and 30, I'm in for it. Just
Yeah.
we don't need a 2 hour and 6 minute Winnie the Pooh slasher film.
No.
Terrifier
I don't
2
need.
length.
No,
So-
not all movies can be Terrifier 2 and make 2 hours and 20 minutes work. Most slashers cannot.
So there's an internet comic. If I can find it, I'll link it when we do this. But it's Peter Pan and the Lost Boys meeting Captain Hook, and they're basically like, "We're gonna stop you, Captain Hook." And he's like, "Hold on a second, you guys call me Captain Hook? Is that because I lost my hand?" And he's like, "Wow, that's rude. My parents are also dead. Why don't you call me Captain Dead Parents?"
But
While we're on
Yeah.
the topic of public domain movies or twisted childhood movies, Jason.
So they had
happened with
a
the mean one.
so they had the surprise screening at Season of Screamings, and I hung around for that, and I'm glad I did because there was the mean one, which is basically another public domain. They don't actually say Grinch, but it's basically the homicidal Grinch. And it's funny because they play with that a lot, where someone's like about to say it, and then someone like yells something from behind them.
And that's a David Howard Thornton, right?
Yeah.
Playing the mean one, right?
Playing the mean one. Yeah, he does a great job. Like it's not as good as Art because they probably had the even smaller budget than the first Terrifier movie. But actually, they had a Q&A. So the director talked about he's actually friends with all those guys. So he kind of like borrowed a lot of their stuff, including their actor. Because Terrifier 2 was actually filmed like 2 years ago or something like that. But then COVID happened and they got delayed. So a lot of those actors and some people had like nothing to do for a little while, so that they kind of hopped on this.
Yeah.
They actually filmed this back last May.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it's a really quick turnaround. And I again, it's a festival screening, so there's a crowd that's really into it. I thought it was really fun. It struck a really good tone of being silly and serious. Like the tone is silly, but the actors are playing it so serious. That was actually really, really funny.
Nice.
Yeah, in my old age, one thing I'm trying to stay out of is like old man yelling at clouds territory, where I just get mad over everything. Like I'm all for just fun horror movies. Like just let me have fun for an hour and a half. I don't give a shit. Like it doesn't need to be Citizen Kane.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, not every movie needs to solve some social economic issue. Some movies just want to be bloody fun, and this definitely was. And what's really funny is, yes, there actually is a training montage, and suddenly, like the main female character, like she's been like, it's supposed to be winter, so she's like wearing parkers and stuff this whole time, even though they filmed it in May. It was really hot. But for a stream montage, she takes off her jacket. Turns out she's actually really buff, not like really buff, but like noticeably buff. And it's a joke, but later in the Q&A, Dead Meat James was saying, yeah, she almost looked like Ronda Rousey. And the actress was there, and she said, actually, I used to double for her for some of her movies.
Oh, wow.
That's funny. That's funny.
So there's a lot of great gags in there that are like, yeah. Would you ever expect a training montage in a homicidal Grinch movie? No, but it's there and it's awesome.
Hey, if I got a training montage in Repossessed, I want a training montage in every parody film.
Yeah, I love Repossessed, by the
man.
way.
Such a good movie.
Good.
Any word on release date for or wider release on that?
Oh yeah, it actually comes out December 8th. So by the time this comes out, they have a 1 week theater engagements, and then they're saying they're getting pushed out by Avatar. But if they do well enough, maybe they'll get some more, and I'm sure it'll be streaming soon enough.
I'm just throwing this out there, but maybe we do one of our Patreon watching chats, maybe a double feature of that movie and Santa's Sleigh.
I don't know if I can sit through two movies, but
have you seen Santa's Sleigh?
I don't know if I've seen the whole thing.
Okay,
I don't know if I've consciously sat down and watched it.
Oh, it's a Christmas ritual in our household.
Yeah, I'd be down to watch that.
I don't think I watched it until like last year or the year before. Like I had avoided it because it looked bad, but man, it's fun.
Dude, I've been screaming about how much I love that movie for years, Jody. That's like I love that movie so much because it's again, we talk about how a horror movie doesn't need to solve all society's problems. All this movie's looking to do is make you laugh and make you smile.
Right.
It's fucking Bill Goldberg, a Jewish man playing Santa Claus, like come on.
Oh, here's another one. So me and my wife are going through HBO Max last week, and just looking for something fun and light to watch. So we saw this movie called Santa Camp. And we're like, okay, fine. Sure. My wife saw something about it. And we're watching it. And it's about a camp put on by these gentlemen that have like a Santa society in New England. So it's all these elderly white guys with big beards, and decided that this year they want to branch out. So they invite a African American man who was actually being harassed by his neighbors for putting up like an inflatable black Santa. They get another gentleman who has fibromyalgia, and was told they told his mother that like he wouldn't live past a certain age and everything, but now he's an adult. He loves Santa Claus. His dream is to be in the Santa parade. And then there's a trans Santa, who wants to be a Santa for the pride community. And man, I was bawling by the end of this documentary. I was expecting something really light, like this is how to be Santa, but no, it really got me in the feels.
Nice. That's cool though, just to see again like a very homogenized community trying to who recognizes, hey, we really like oh shit, it's really pale in this fucking place. Like maybe we should get some different people from different walks of life. That's cool, man. That's cool. I'm gonna have to watch that.
And I mean, there was definitely like some of the guys were like struggling to like adapt, but at least they were trying. Their hearts were in the place, but they were trying to be open to it. And
when I was really young, like I think I worked at Target from the age of like 17 to like 21 or whatever. And I still remember one year because I used to work in I was the lead of the seasonal department when I was young. I was like 17 or 18, and we got in the big plastic Santas, but we only got in the black ones. We just stopped on the shelf, didn't think of it, dude. All fucking day, I dealt with, no offense, but white people coming in bitching that all we had are black Santas. And they're like, I want a Santa that looks like me. I'm like, fuck, dude, I don't know what to tell you. We didn't get him in. Like, people were just a fat man with a big beard. But I'm just saying, like, and when I was younger, I didn't think much of it. I just thought, oh, these people were just fucking dumb. But later, I'm like, man, like, it's one of those things that when you're so used to having representation, it's like the second they didn't have representation, they were so mad.
Oh yeah.
Yet you have minorities that go for so long without representation, these communities. So it's really cool to see they're trying to expand. And and granted, like, again, we're kind of looking at society now from a different lens than we did when we were younger, which is good. And I mean that in a very positive way. We've all hopefully changed, no one should think the same way at 18 as they do at 40. Like, and I mean that for better. Like, you should be wiser, more experienced, have different experiences. But like, I wonder, like, for young kids, just to see a Santa that's like them, how much that means to them. So that's really cool.
We were accidentally progressive this year because one thing that my mom always does for the kids every year at Christmas is buy like Christmas pajamas for all the kids to like wear and take pictures and stuff. And this year, when she placed her order, she didn't notice, but all the pajamas she ordered have black Santas on them.
Nice.
And she was like, is everyone okay? And like, everyone's fine. Everyone's perfectly happy. We all have representational Santas this year. And you know what? It's kind of cool.
It's I saw a story on Twitter from someone I follow who posted that his son wanted a dress. So they're at Target, he bought him a dress. And he goes, and then he was outside playing with his friends. His friend runs to me and goes, why is, I'm going to just guess a name here. Why is Dylan wearing a dress? His dad goes, because he wanted to wear it. And he goes, okay. I went back to playing.
Yeah.
Like, that's how society should be.
Yeah. Anytime you ask like Gen Zers, like, are you okay with this? They're like, yeah, sure. Why would I not be okay with this? So it's kind of nice. I when growing, or now that I have a lot of younger kids in my house, the way that they just kind of brush off stuff that would have been a big deal 30 years ago is just fantastic. I think they give me a lot of hope for the future sometimes.
Yeah, I've talked to my mom, my child Beans, who actually just turned 22 days ago. Happy birthday to my child, and happy birthday to my dog Abby, who celebrated her quinceañera today. But
yeah, tell us about the quinceañera.
Well, we did all her favorite things. So I gave her an egg for breakfast, and then we went to PetSmart and picked out some toys. She doesn't like toys, so we picked out some treats. And then we went to Tenay Creek Brewery because she loves beer, and she got to taste a little bit of beer. We gave her a bunch of treats. Then we went to the dog park where she met a bunch of huskies. She tried to get into a fight with a husky. This bitch is a Chihuahua Terrier mix that weighs 12 pounds.
Oh my God.
She's like, I'm gonna fight these 3 husky motherfuckers. because she's a fucking chihuahua. They live off spite. And then we came
beer.
home and yeah. And my wife made her a you know what? She likes beer and I don't give her very much of it. But I think at one point she's an alcoholic. Because I would give her taste my beer like every day. And then when I was working for Apple one night, I came around 11 p.m. from being Pell's already asleep because she worked mornings, I worked nights. The fun of retail back in the day. And I sat on the couch, I cracked open a beer, and then I hear dunk. She heard the noise and was like, "Let me get in on this shit." So we gave her a little sip of beer, and then we have right now tonight after we finish this up, she's gonna get my wife made her a banana cream dog pie because her favorite food in the world is bananas. Like if she sees you go for banana, she's like, "Oh shit." This is the day. But backtracking, also my daughter's birthday. Her 20th birthday. So I bought her new car tires because someone slashed 2 of her tires in her apartment complex. So I went and bought her new tires. And then we took her out to dinner on Thursday. I went to Nightmare Cafe Las Vegas, which is a cool place. If you guys haven't, it's family friendly every night, but Friday and Saturday nights they close it down just for adults because all they're serving are tons of people with liquor. But really cool horror themed bar next to Nightmare Toys, which is a shop usually based in Alabama than based out here. But just what I want to say, I had a lot of conversations with her, about just various things. And the one thing that always strikes me is, again, like kids always don't see the big picture, and that's okay because they're learning, right? And I see a lot of that when I was that age. You guys probably see that in yourselves and you were that age, and you'll see that in your kids as they get older. But just the mental and the emotional maturity of kids nowadays eclipses like what most adults deal with nowadays, or have nowadays. And it's really, really nice to see that like the future is inclusive. The future is mental health positive. The future is going to be about like, I think we're going to, do what the boomer should have done and make society a little bit more about love and a little bit more about loving everybody and a little bit less about hate and trying to, separate each other by our differences. So I know a lot of people out there are like, I have no hope, no faith in the youth. Nah, man, I got a lot of faith.
They haven't been around teenagers, if that's what they're saying.
Yeah,
I have a lot of faith in the youth, and I truly mean that from the bottom of my heart. Like, I think people like you guys are raising good kids. I have a lot of friends that are raising good kids, and I think, like, you know what, man, like, yeah, maybe if we're a little bit less economically aggressive, but we're more into just letting everybody live the life they want to live and have a good life, no matter what their color, their sexual orientation, whatever. That's more important, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I think about some of the things that we casually said when I was a teenager, and knowing that teenagers today would like be horrified by the jokes and stuff we told.
Yeah, and that's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
And I don't mean that like to. I'm not saying we should have made those jokes. We should have said those things, but it was a different era and we didn't have the hate behind them. But I'm sure, like me, you'll remember somebody who said it, you're like, like, but we've gotten older and learned, and that's a good thing because some people, I still hear people use words like that for stupid reasons, and it hits me kind of hard as a father of someone in the LGBTQ community, and I'm just like, I almost got into some shit with the guy at my favorite brewery and I wasn't being a dick to him. I just said, dude, like, I don't think you're being hateful. I don't think you mean anything hateful by that. But I just think you're also my age and you can think of a better word.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes, I can't remember which of the Beastie Boys said it, but someone was interviewing him talking about, how some of the stuff they used to
shouted
say.
It. They probably all shouted the quote at the same time.
Yeah. Well, they're asking, like, you said these are your lyrics that they don't really use anymore, these things. They said, well, I'd rather be someone that I'd rather admit that I was wrong than be the same person I was. I'd rather be a hypocrite than be a hypocrite. I'd rather be wrong than be a hypocrite.
And it's sometimes too when they
butchered that.
No, I get what you mean though. It's also too sometimes when they unearth like a tweet that a director said from when they were 18 or 17 and try to, and I have more respect for when the person will come out and be like, yeah, no, I definitely said those things. I wasn't in the, this is how I thought when I was young and I was dumb. I don't think that way anymore. And no, I never should have said it. I respect when people do say that because as long as they have no other history of doing that kind of thing.
Right.
Okay, the quote was, "I'd rather be a hypocrite than the same person."
Yeah,
Forever.
I love that. I love that. And I forgot what it was during, again, all the nasty political debates we get. And they had called out some senator or some congressperson over something they had said in an interview like 20 years ago. And they're like, yeah, 100%. That's how I thought back then. And I was wrong. And I learned and got better. And now I don't think that way anymore. And they're like vilifying him for it. And I'm like, no, that's like how the human experience should work, right? As you get more experience, gain new knowledge, you might change the way you think about things.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that.
You should.
Yeah. It's there's a quote by someone that said a person who thinks the same way at the age of 40 that they did at the age of 20 wasted 20 years of their life.
Mm.
And or some number like that. I don't remember the numbers, but it makes a lot of sense because, like, yeah, sure, there are certain things I still believe, like that metal's the best music in the world, obviously. Horror is the best genre in the world, obviously. But a lot of other things, though, like just I've gained new life experiences and don't think that way anymore, no matter what it is.
Yeah, I mean, we're already in dad advice territory, but one thing I do want to also talk about is the new Wednesday show. Because I've had the time of my life watching that show with my 8-year-old daughter. She is loving it. We just finished it today, and all she wants to do is lay in bed with me, like nuzzle like her face against like my forehead, but she's very in a very aggressive like physical child. She has like a lot of intensity. So when she like puts her head, she's not putting it there, she's like drilling her head up against mine.
I've got one of those too.
And she just wants to watch the show, and like it's right. She's 8 years old. It's right on the edge of being a little bit scary. Like, so the one monster is a little on the scary side, and there's a little bit of blood, but they don't really show any gore. And the thing, the hand guy thing, freaked her out at first, just seeing it, because it's like the way they did it. It's more like a cadaver hand of like pieces of hand stitched together. But then yesterday when I was at the convention, I went around and I bought like every Wednesday Addams like picture, sticker, whatever I could find. And,
that's awesome.
Got them for her because she loves it so much. So I'm trying to encourage that. So find ways to introduce and encourage your kids to your favorite genres.
Yeah. Has she seen the movies?
She's seen the animated one.
Okay.
She hasn't seen the live action one.
Are you going to show those to her next?
That's a good idea. I hadn't thought about that, but she wants to watch it again. So I think we'll be watching the same series for a little bit. But yeah, I'll show her the movies.
I watched the first 2 episodes. I could not get into it. But I also, again, I'm not blaming the show. I'm going to blame me as a busy guy. I was just a lot of work stuff going through my head at the time. I couldn't really focus on it. So I'm going to give it another shot because I've heard a lot of good things about it. And what's her name? Jenna Ortega?
Jenna Ortega, yeah.
She is a fantastic actress as Wednesday. So I'll definitely give it another shot.
I mean,
we haven't started. Go ahead.
So if I wasn't watching with my daughter, I don't know if I'd stick it the whole way through. But I can't like divorce the experience of watching it with her from the show.
Yeah, which is fine. Those are the memories you should be making. So that's super cool.
My kids and I have always liked watching shows together and movies and stuff like that. And we haven't started Wednesday yet, but it's next on our list after we finish this current season of Cobra Kai, which I'm really enjoying.
Yeah. Also,
fun fact about Cobra Kai. I'm sorry. Some of the when a spoiler alert for anyone who has not seen the season of Cobra Kai. Have you already gotten to the point where they're expanding the dojo and they have all these different like senseis? Those are a lot of MMA fighters doing that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like the black guy is Tyron Woodley, who's one of the best fighters of all time. So it's kind of really cool seeing like real fighters in those roles.
There is one guy in the background. I don't know who he is, but he has an eye patch and spiky hair, and he looks like an anime supervillain, and he's always in the background of every scene. That's awesome. But yeah, no, Cobra Kai is great. But just watching stuff with your kids is great. Like I love watching movies with my kids. I'm finally at the point that I have older kids now. And so my 14-year-old and I watched Terrifier 2 this weekend.
Oh,
that's awesome. That's awesome.
And he was like, it's not scary. It's pretty gross. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty gross. But yeah, it's good.
Did you watch the first one?
We did not watch the first one.
I think the first one's worse.
The naked woman getting split in half is not something I want to introduce my 14-year-old to yet.
We'll
wait a few years.
You know what's interesting about that, and they talked about that on Bloody Horror when they reviewed Terrifier 2, and I've heard from some other people, is so many people turned the movie off after that that bisection scene because they thought they were about to get like 2 hours of torture porn,
Sure.
and the fact that though, like, you realize it's not like just violence. It's not like a violence against women movie. It's just art being a piece of shit.
Right,
and
right.
and that a lot of people say, oh, I eventually went back and rewatched it. It was, oh, thank Christ it wasn't 2 hours of that. It was better than I
Right.
expected it to be.
Still not a huge fan of Terrifier 1, but the more I watch Terrifier 2, like I'm falling down the rabbit hole. Like I'm into this stuff.
If anything, man, like God, David Howard Thornton, whatever. He's so awesome. He's so good in that role.
So good. I need like an enamel pen of art with the flower sunglasses on. I mean,
Yeah, they were during the mean one. At the Q&A, the director was talking about the first time that David Howard Thornton got the entire Grinch makeup. He just went and stood in front of a mirror and just started making faces. It's like start moving, like tweaking his face different ways to like work out in his head what he could and couldn't do or how things looked.
His faces are so good. I was talking to my son about it after we watched, and he does all the silly faces and everything, but every time like something bad happens, he has this like disgusted face. Like he can switch from this like big happy smiley clown to this angry disgusted look, and he's so good at all of it. There's one scene in the Halloween store where the guy yells at him and he does like this. It's so good. Every facial expression that man makes.
Have you seen like an interview with him just like being normal, like talking normal?
I haven't yet. I need to.
Because he seems like the nicest guy.
Oh, if you follow him on social media, he's very, very left wing, and most of his posts are actually about politics. He luckily he's on the right side of the coin. And then it usually turns into him talking shit to people who are being dickbags. But he seems like a super nice dude. Like my wife did a piece of artwork and he commented on her post. He tagged her. Cool. She tagged him, and he's like, awesome work. And then hopefully we'll see him at Days of the Dead and get an autograph. But he seems like such a fucking nice guy.
Yeah.
Nice.
And even when he was talking about the movie, like he even talks about how blown away he is by it. Like he never expected this. I truly think, man, like a Terrifier should become the new Saw, in that it should be every year we get a new Terrifier.
Yeah. No, I said, some people complain that it's too long, and it's long.
It is too long, dude. Like
it is 2 hours and 20 minutes. But I feel like Damien Leone this time around, or Leone, I don't know how to say this. I think it's Leone. But he is not trying to make a slasher movie anymore. He's trying to make a fucking epic. And, it gets magical, it gets weird. I'm into all of it. I have no problem with it.
I respect this, and this we can get into a Terrifier review someday, a Terrifier 2 review someday. But like, I think he needs a good editor just to rein him in just a little bit.
Sure.
Like, again, I don't think.
But
I know some people are saying you could cut 45 minutes out of this film. I'm with you, Jody. You can't cut that much out, but I think you can cut a good 30 minutes, and then the rest can be bonus content in the Blu-ray to make it that much more.
I'm the guy who always watches the extended edition if it's an option.
Oh,
like Lord of the Rings, I'll watch all freaking 12 hours.
I
will too, but I want the option to pause so I can go and take a piss. And
sure, yeah. No, in a theater, it'd be a whole different thing.
In a theater, and that's, I mean, that makes the Blu-ray that much more attractive, which I'm buying anyways. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, my Blu-ray's pre-ordered.
Yeah, same here. From 4K from Best Buy. I couldn't do Steelbook because I wanted the 4K.
Yeah, it's Steelbook. It's Steelbook's at Walmart, so that's the one I've got.
When you said that this should be. When you said this should be like the Saw movies, I'm just imagining like 5-10 years from now they're still making these movies, and there's a flashback scene where Art shows up somewhere with a backwards baseball hat.
Hello. I just want to see now Art just rolling into a scene on the tricycle now.
Yeah. Doesn't he do that in the first one, or am I making that up?
He might have. It's been a long time since the first one, actually.
Yeah. All right. Well,
I have to rectify this.
Do we have any final thoughts before we wrap up?
I don't know. We went a lot of places tonight, but you know what? I had fun. It was a good conversation,
dude. I'm stoked to keep watching this series.
Absolutely.
It's kind of nice to take a little bit of break from Tales from the Crypt. Because after doing 5 seasons straight every week for the past year, I'm kind of ready for a little bit of a break, and then we can jump back into it. So I've been really, I really just love
cleanser.
Yeah, but a beautiful palate cleanser, because
beautiful.
I mean, like, and I've heard some reviews that some episodes are stronger than others, which is going to happen with any anthology. But again, though, I really love that we're putting these spotlights on these. He's doing mainly foreign directors too, right?
A lot of them,
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited.
I've heard, Jennifer Kent, who did the Babadook.
yeah. Hmm.
I've heard her episode is slow, but I like her stuff enough that I'm willing to deal with slow. And Panos Cosmatos, like I'm looking forward to a lot of things that are coming up.
And this may sound dumb, but I really hope if people who will start podcast enjoy our positivity.
Yeah,
because I feel like even the worst episodes, we still don't shit on them.
No.
We still try to be positive and find good things about them because, dude, it's so easy to nitpick things, and I don't want to. I just want to fucking have fun.
Yeah, the fact that anyone gets anything made is just like mind-boggling.
Yeah,
right.
I had a podcast I used to listen to, and it doesn't exist anymore. But before they quit, it just got so negative. Like every movie they watched, they hated every single thing, and I'm like, why
It's
am
kind of
I
like
just
Jason and
listening
Tales
to
from the
people
Crypt.
shit on movies constantly? It wasn't fun for me after a while. I know some people like that. They like the whole like tear down a movie, whatever. I don't like. I appreciate movies. I enjoy movies. I want people who enjoy movies to share their love for it, not their hatred for something.
So have you guys seen this the hype of this movie called 12 Kilometers Down?
Mhm.
So in order to get access to the movie, you have to message the guy on Instagram and tell him your 3 favorite horror movies, and then he decides if you can watch his movie or not.
That's
It sounds way more pretentious than it actually is.
yeah. That sounds really.
The guy sounds like no matter what 3 movies you send him, he'd give you a screen. Like he just, I think he does it for fun. But on his latest podcast, he did a he actually released, and I have to look it up and we can link it. But he actually said, no, just my podcast, and I'll tell you the link on the podcast, but I want you to listen to the podcast. And what I think is funny, what I think is interesting is you have people are going on his Instagram page, some with praise and some bashing his movie. But the only thing he asks about people that bash the movie is just give me reasons why you didn't like it.
Yeah.
Don't just say your movie sucks and you're stupid.
Yeah.
No, give me reasons. And I think that's totally okay to do. Like, if you don't like something, just give me reasons why. And granted, there is some shitty cinema out there. Sure. There are some shitty films out there. But I think here on our podcast, like even if we don't like something, I think we at least try to highlight some of the positivities.
Sure.
Yeah.
And again, that's kind of the format that I made for this podcast is so that even if the episode like for Tales of the Crypt, even if the episode sucks, we still have like music to talk about. We've got other things that we can like bring it back.
I don't need an hour and a half of hate. There's enough bad stuff in the world.
Yeah, you can if you want that, you can go on Glenn Jacobs' Twitter account. So why would you? We don't need that here.
All right. Well, I think that wraps up the episode. Next week, we will be reviewing Cabinet of Curiosities episode 2, titled Graveyard Rats. We appreciate everyone for listening. We really would appreciate it if you would give us a rating or review on iTunes, a rating on Spotify. Check out our Patreon for bonus content. Also, check out our YouTube channel for videos of these podcasts. With that, we thank you for listening to Dads from the Crypt.
Goodbye.
Follow Dads from the Crypt on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or I will follow you to the grave. No, seriously, you really should watch. But be careful what you ask for. You may get it.